guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to paint on an 11 by 14 Creative Series stretch canvas by Fredericks. I've got some craft paint out. I've got white, terracotta orange, burnt sienna, nutmeg, burnt umber, and black. And this is all craft paint. I've got some mop brushes from Hobby Lobby, a couple different sizes. I use quite a few of these in this painting. But they're all basically the same kind of brush, just different sizes. If you happen to need some additional help with acrylic blending, I do have a couple other tutorials on my channel that can help you out with that, but I'm going to start with some white, the brown, which I think technically on the bottle it says burnt umber, but it's just brown, and some of that terracotta orange. And I'm going to start with blocking in my sky, and then I'm going to gradually add more color as I move into like the distant trees. I'm going to hold my brush, like kind of go up and down with it instead of a round motion. That way it kind of looks like there's some trees standing up. And then clean and dry mop brush to swirl and blend all of that together, just so that these background trees look really soft and back in the distance and like they're kind of covered with some fog. So while all of that paint is still wet, I'm going to keep getting darker and darker with my color. So less white, more color every time as I move towards the foreground. And my canvas was slipping off my easel here, but so darker as I get closer to the foreground. Now I'm just wiping off my brush just to clear off some of the excess paint. And then I'm going to blend that darker color into the trees, the first layer of trees. And then I'll just keep doing that until I work my way all the way to the foreground. Alright, so I do paint this black, but it does not stay black. I kind of just wanted to get it blocked in so that I could kind of know what I was going to paint around. I also wasn't sure at this point if I was going to paint a river or a road. So I do end up deciding on a river. So I go back over this black with the color of my sky later on. So again, like I said earlier, as I get closer to the foreground, I just keep going darker and darker with the colors, just so that it looks like it's getting closer to the foreground. So for the water, it really doesn't matter what brush you use. I'm just using a mop brush because I use them a lot. And I use them for just about everything. They cover a lot of canvas pretty quickly too, so that's why I'm using a mop brush here. I'm using the same color for my sky, just a little bit darker, and I'm brushing straight up and down. I'm not going side to side or swirling. It's very short strokes, and I'm just kind of wiggling the brush on the canvas. I don't have a lot of paint on here. I want it to look uneven. I don't want it to all be one solid color, and I don't want it to be really blended. Usually when I paint water, I usually use oil paint. But I'm really trying to practice more with acrylic, especially for my tutorials, because not everybody likes to use oil over their acrylic. And I want my tutorials to be helpful for, for everybody. But if I tell you this is an acrylic tutorial, and then at the very end I add oil over top of it, I feel like that's kind of, it's not a complete acrylic tutorial. So I'm trying to practice more with acrylic painting water. I'm not very experienced with it, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit better. So this paint is all still pretty wet. And again, straight up and down, really short motions, like really short brush strokes. I don't want it to all be really smooth. I don't want it to be blended. And I'm using that very small mop brush from Hobby Lobby. And if you'll notice, I'm using a pretty big variety of different colors here. All the same colors that I used in the sky, but it's not, the water's not all one solid color. So I'm just kind of going back and forth between all the colors that I already put in my sky. So I completely cut out this tree because I do not keep this tree. I tried to start painting it and I just absolutely hate the way that it looked. I don't even like the second tree that I put in there. I wish I had just left it alone. Like, I wish I had not messed up that beautifully blended sky. I was so disappointed after I messed it up. But it happens. So moving on, I'm using a number 2 bristle fan brush by Golden Maple, and I'm holding my fan brush 90 degrees to the canvas, and I'm just pressing downward. I know it's kind of hard to tell, but because I'm doing it so fast. See, like when I'm painting, I get carried away and I forget sometimes that I'm recording and that this is a tutorial and I need to slow down so that you can actually see what I'm doing. But really sorry about that. But yeah, I'm just pushing down with the fan brush like 90 degrees to the canvas, and I'm using that nutmeg color for the ground. Then I'm going to go back and add some black because I always overdo it, and just kind of darken up a few little areas here and there. So watching this back, I see that tree now, and it doesn't look as bad as I thought it did while I was painting it, but I still really don't like it. I don't like the shape. I didn't like anything about it. So anytime I'm painting over existing paint, especially when it's something I need to blend, I always add a little bit of water to my brush. So on my brush right now, I've got some water and white paint, and I'm going back in with the color that I originally mixed up for my sky. And I didn't say it at the beginning of this video, but I have said it a couple times in other tutorials. Anytime you're going to paint, well, if you have like a background or something that you plan to paint, always mix up enough color just in case something like this happens. Like if you put a giant tree on there and you hate it and you need to cover it back up, you'll have that color mixed up. You'll still have that same color mixed up, and you'll be able to match it fairly easily. Now, this time I didn't actually mix up any color. I kind of mixed and blended on the canvas instead of pre-mixing my color, which is something I usually do. I usually mix my color up first and then put it on the canvas, but this time I didn't. I don't know why. So right now I'm just kind of going back and forth with the different colors, trying to match what I had painted before. And I had to get out some extra mop brushes because my other ones were dirty, and you need clean brushes to blend with. So I have also said this many times in the past. It's always a good idea to have extra mop brushes, because if you mess up and you need to paint back over something, having clean and dry extra mop brushes, you'll be able to do that. So if I didn't have any extra clean and dry mop brushes, the mop brushes that I had used before would all have like the darker brown color in them. And if I tried to use a brush like that way up here, I'd get a bunch of dark brown paint up here. And also, if I didn't have extra clean and dry mop brushes to use, I'd have to use my existing ones and they would be brown, so I'd have to go wash them. And if you wash them, you're not going to get the same blending effect if they're wet. So I would have to go wash them and then dry them thoroughly before I could blend with them. So that's why I have I seriously think I have about 15 mop brushes. That's not even an exaggeration, but it really comes in handy, and it's really helpful for if you make a mistake or if you need to change something. And we all know acrylic paint dries extremely fast, and you don't have time to be running back and forth to rinse and wash and dry your mop brushes right in the middle of an acrylic painting. So I could still see that ugly tree through that paint, even though I covered it up. I dried all of this with my hair dryer and then waited for my canvas to cool down from the hair dryer. If I tried to repaint over this again while my canvas was warm, my paint would dry even faster. So you did see me just a few seconds ago dip a little more water into my brush this time, because this is the third layer of paint that I'm putting over this, so I had to use a little bit more water this time. I believe this time I'm only adding white, and I'm just kind of blending it into those background trees. So even though I covered up that stupid tree like 3 times, I can still see some of the tree on the sky. And I really wish that I had just kept painting over it until it was completely gone, but I didn't. So I went with this like a lighter background kind of tree, and yeah, so that's just the terracotta orange on my mop brush. Moving on, I'm using an angle brush from the Deco Enchanted set, and I want to really keep these trees nice and delicate, and I can't paint a straight line, so I got out my ruler and sketched in where I want my, see, even with a ruler I can't make it straight. So I'm going to sketch in like where I want my 3 trees over on this side, and then another big one on the left. I'm going to keep using the angle brush at first to kind of just place a couple of my branches. I don't want to overdo it with this tree because I've already covered it up once. I don't want to have to cover it up again, so I'm trying to be very careful. So this is a little a round bristle brush, and it comes in a set with this brush here and this one here. And they're just really stiff bristle brushes. This is the smallest one that comes in that set. And I'm using black craft paint, and I'm going to start at the branch and then drag straight down so that it looks like the stuff on the tree. I don't know, the twigs? No, I mean, if I knew what kind of tree this was, I could explain what that stuff is hanging down, but I've seen trees like this before. I don't know I don't know what they are, and I don't know what that stuff is hanging down. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just like dragging straight down from the branch, and then go back a couple of times just to kind of fill in the tree a little bit more because it's looking pretty skinny and kind of puny. So, but again, don't want to overdo it, so I had to be very, very careful. Okay, so I actually went and Googled what kind of tree has hangy stuff. Number one, I don't think hangy is even a word. And I also don't think that this is like any kind of real tree. I searched for a really long time on this, and I can't find any tree that actually looks like this. So this tree only lives in my imagination, apparently. So I don't know. You can skip this tree if you want. But I'm officially naming it the hangy tree. So I think I giggled just a little bit too much over that. This little branch here, I made it a little bit too big. It just kind of hung out too far. So I'm covering it up, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. This is another brush from that same set that I used to paint the hangy tree. It's a round bristle brush, and it's just bigger than the other one. I want these 3 trees on this side to stay delicate, so I'm using I don't know if that's the angled brush or the filbert brush, but it's from the Deco Enchanted set, and I just want something really skinny to put a few little tiny twigs or branches at the tops of the trees, and then I'll switch over to my hangy brush tree. No, wait a minute. My hangy tree brush, which is the round bristle brush. Honestly, guys, I don't even know why you put up with me. I looked at my subscribers the other day, and I have almost 10,000 subscribers. That's a lot of people. And just knowing that many people, well, I mean, 10,000 people don't watch every single video that I make, but just knowing that I have that many potential eyes watching me paint and hearing some of the dumb stuff that I say on here, it kind of makes me anxious. This is a flat brush from the Deco Fine Detail set, and I'm just going to paint this little fence. I feel like I say this a lot in my tutorials. I wish I hadn't have painted that. I feel like I say that a lot. And I don't want you guys to think that like I just hate everything that I paint, but like it happens to me quite a bit. I'll paint something and then just I don't really like it, and you know, I'm not gonna make these videos and just be like I loved everything about this. No, I'm just being honest. Like I'm one of my worst critics. I am my worst critic when it comes to my artwork, and I do have people tell me a lot that I'm entirely too hard on myself, but I don't know. I wish I had not painted this fence. So, just being honest, I thought it looked a lot better before I put the fence in there, but I was running out of time, and somebody might want the fence. So if you wanted to know how to paint a little fence here, now you can see how I did that. But yeah, if I was going to do this over again, I would not put this tree here or any of that stuff at all, and I would not paint this fence. I do actually like the fog, though, that I add. It takes me a couple tries to get it right, but I do like the fog. So I'm going to use something called Matte Fluid Medium, and I'm going to use a worn down mop brush, white craft paint, and then over here on my not so clean cloth, but I did find a little clean and dry spot, I'm going to blend it together on that cloth. Wipe off most of it, and I was showing you there on my hand. There's very, very little paint on my brush. It's just like a dry brush. And I start with only white, and I was trying to rub it into the canvas to blend it with my finger, but my fingers are really dirty from rubbing other paint on my canvas. So I start with the white, but then I realized I actually needed some of that orange brown color for my fog, because your fog is usually like white plus whatever color the surroundings are. So I catch it finally here in just a few minutes that I remember I should be using a little bit of color with it, because I kept painting this white fog and I kept thinking, why does this not look right? It looks weird. So in a second I do grab some of the orange and brown, but basically just swirling on the canvas with a super dry brush, and I'm just kind of using my finger to blend out any kind of like heavier blobs or anything like that. So there we go. I grabbed some orange, I grabbed some white and some fluid medium, and I'm blending it and kind of mixing it on the cloth and wiping it off so that my brush stays pretty dry. My first try was a little too orange and not enough of the brown, so like I said, it takes me a couple of tries, but I finally get it the color that I'm happy with. So now I'm going to grab my, what did I call that brush? What's my official name for that brush? I forgot already. My hangy tree brush. It's the round, the small round bristle brush. And I'm going to bring out a few more of the branches. So I'm going to push this tree a little bit further back in the distance by covering up some of it with the fog. And then for the second tree, I cover up some of it and then bring out some more of the branches. And what I mean by that is I just paint over top of the fog with a little bit of the black paint, but not everywhere. So just like a couple of branches so that it kind of looks like it's in the fog, but it's also not like totally engulfed in the flog. So that it looks like it's sorry, so that it looks like it's not, completely in the fog. So I just kind of go back and forth with it. I'll put a little fog, bring out a couple of branches, and then for the tree in the very front, I'm going to bring out most of those branches and just put a little bit of fog around it. If you are still subscribed to my channel after watching this video, you're awesome. All right, guys. I think that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sticking around and for putting up with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you liked today's video, give that like button a tap and please consider subscribing. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok where I upload content almost daily. Thank you for watching.